What is going on, gunfighters? Today we're going to talk about the Ruger 1022, different variants, a little bit about history, and the gun Americana that is wrapped up in the Ruger 1022. If that interests you, stay tuned. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, the right way with Almighty God at the center. Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Bio, cliff notes, in the show notes. Let's get into the topic du jour. The Ruger 1022. Now, if you are like me, you may have cut your teeth as a little gunfighter with a 1022, or partially with a 1022. I did. And I don't know what year it came out, but a little bit of, let's say, maybe lesser known history of the 1022. If you're familiar with the Ruger Deerfield carbine, you look at that and think, oh, that's like a 44 Magnum version of the Ruger 1022. That's really cool, and it is. But you may be surprised to find out that, I believe, if my Ruger history is correct, that the Deerfield carbine, that 44 mag, came out first, and the 1022 actually came out after that. This was not Ruger's first gun, although it's probably his most prolific. He, I believe, made the Ruger Mark Series pistol and the Black Hawk, and then the 44 carbine, and then this cartridge, or rather this gun model, the Ruger 1022, is a smaller, scaled-down version of the Deerfield carbine. And was that ever a good idea? There was a time when there was a great debate and a great race on what was the best, most prolific on the American 22 rifle landscape, better rifle, the Ruger 1022 or the Marlin Model 60. Well, the 1022 won that race. I would say it always should have. I believe it's a better design. My best friend growing up may disagree with that because he was a Marlin Model 60 guy. Whether you think it's a better design or not, the 1022 certainly won that race. Part of that may have been because of the financial woes of Marlin getting bought out by Remington and all that fiasco and the Bushmaster stuff. And sometimes good guns go away through no fault of their own. But the 1022 reigns supreme. It is still going strong. And over all those years, there have been many very cool variants of the Ruger 1022. The first one, not the first one I ever shot, but the first one that I ever bought with my own money was the all-weather. The all-weather is kind of something that Ruger is known for, making guns out of stainless steel. A lot of companies do that now, but it wasn't super common back in the day. Might have been these guys, and then maybe AMT, a company that's no longer with us. But Ruger has, for a long, long time, been known for making guns in stainless steel. I would submit for the working man in harsh climates. I got the all-weather. One of the bits of wisdom that I've held on to ever since my youth is if you can get something in stainless steel, almost always get it in stainless steel. As somebody that likes to hunt harsh conditions and as somebody that grew up in the swamps of the South, that's a big deal. So the all-weather is a fantastic model. If you want a more rugged, more forgiving of less maintenance, stainless doesn't mean it doesn't rust. It means it stains less. And they did make a variant because I have one of the stocks, the canoe paddle stock, that Zytel that was famous on their M77s, but they also made that for the 1022. They made an all-weather version with that, like, cutouts, minimized stock. Really kind of hoping that Ruger, they're doing a bunch of, commemorative stuff this year. I was really kind of hoping, or would like to see them come out with that Zytel stock again, that canoe paddle stock. It's a phenomenal stock. It kind of got, I think, discontinued because people thought it was ugly, but boy, was it functional. That all-weather. Now, you can get the stainless steel. I believe there have been variants with stainless steel and wood if you would like that. The next one I'm going to talk about I believe was offered in the blue steel or stainless steel, and that's the Sporter version. The Sporter version, think of it as like the upgrade. Think of it as like the Lexus to the Toyota, if you're kind of thinking about it that way. Basically the same thing, but a little bit nicer. It has, I believe, an 18 or an 18 point something inch barrel. There's been slight variance of this over the years. A lot of times it comes with really good sling swivels, which is honestly one thing that the 1022 really suffers from. Generally, when you get the regular models, they do not come with a way to attach a sling, which is a giant pain in the butt. The Sporter model does generally have those. Again, they've been different variants, but a lot of them have the sling attachment point already, which is fantastic. The 18-inch barrel, again, blued or stainless, I believe both have been offered. They generally come with a nicer checkered wood stock. Think of it like the leather heated seats and an upgraded version of a car. And the ones that I'm aware of do not have a barrel band. If you're familiar with the Ruger 1022, the regular models have a barrel band on the front. Now, on a centerfire rifle, this is not something you generally want because you want a free-floated barrel. With a 22 and the amount of barrel oscillation and stuff you're dealing with such a small cartridge, I honestly don't think it's that big a deal. But some people like the look of the barrel band, some don't. If you don't want the barrel band, the Ruger 1022 certainly does not need it to function. So the Sporter also does not. It forgoes the barrel band. Now, the Takedown is fairly modern, actually. I don't think that came about until well after the 2000s. But the Takedown model, if you're looking for a good survival Takedown model, I believe these are only in stainless steel. I could be wrong about that, but they have a very good locking mechanism. And I thought, because I have one of these, I'm on my second one, the first one got stolen. I thought that when I got one, that it would not be as accurate as a regular 1022. But with the headspace being off the rim of the barrel anyway, doesn't seem to make any difference. I would say that my maybe just happenstance or small sample size, but I would say that my takedowns have been as accurate as a regular Ruger 1022. So if that concerns you, I wouldn't let it be a concern. But if you're looking for like a backpack gun, takedown gun, small storage compartment, the takedown versions are a very good kind of survival gun. Even with just the iron sights, the factory Ruger iron sights are not the best, but they're not bad for that purpose. So maybe just leave it like it is, put some extra rounds, extra magazines with it, and keep going. But that 1022 takedown, it was done, to be fair, I think by Marlin First in the Papoose or earlier, and there's also the Henry, but whatever they were before, AR-7 survival rifle takedown 22s. However, I think the 1022 is the best of the takedown variants. It's a little bit heavier, so it may not be the best for purely backpacking, but as far as a good functional 22 that's a takedown, the Ruger 1022 takedown is the best, I think. It lets you have regular rifle ergonomics, not like just holding on to the barrel. You don't have some giant weird stock on it. It just feels like a regular 1022 that happens to take down. And the 1022, again, it is very popular for good reason. It's a lot of good things about it. And if you want it in a takedown, that's a no-brainer. One of the very new variants that has come out is the carbon fiber. It's very, very light stock carbon fiber barrel. I don't know if it was a limited run or if they're going to keep making them, but just a phenomenal. If you want like a steel challenge gun or something like a very fast, very lightweight, very accurate one, now it can't have iron sights, or it doesn't have iron sights because it's a carbon fiber barrel. I'd never seen a carbon fiber barrel with iron sights. But if it's strictly for like speed shooting with a red dot or an optic and you want a very, very lightweight for whatever reason, in the case of Steel Challenge, it would be for target transitions. But that is a very cool new variant. Now, when I was a kid, if you were serious into shooting and you went to a shooting competition, which I often did, you might have seen one of these, and that was the Ruger Target model. Bull barrel, like a big, thick, I don't know if it was an inch and a quarter, it was a big, thick, like non-tapered barrel. And the ones from my youth in the 90s, they have what looked like a twisted steel barrel. Now, whether it was some kind of flat-sided barrel stock that was twisted or whether it was just milled to look that way or machined or something, I don't know. I couldn't say. But it was beautiful, I can say that. So these generally came with the free-floated barrel and a giant, heavy target barrel. I believe only stainless steel. These were, again, kind of like if you saw one of those when you were walking the line there, the shooting line, you were like, ooh, that's fancy. I like that. They were beautiful. And again, they were made for kind of target practice. They're a bit heavy to be practical for field use, but heavier than they need to be. And they don't have iron sights. They're mostly just a strictly target type deal. One of the great things that this is a good place to get into this. One of the good things that sets the Ruger 1022 apart that you couldn't really do with the Marlin Model 60, very modular, easy to swap barrels out. So I don't know if this was in Ruger's response to other companies, like back in the day it was Green Mountain, I believe, and other companies, maybe Butler Creek, making target barrels for the 1022. And they saw that and people were buying them. And they thought, why don't we just make a big, heavy barreled 1022? But that was one of the things that has set the Ruger 1022 apart for a long time. If you're not familiar, it just kind of has a locking block with two pretty beefy screws in the front. And you can take the barrel off and put a new one on, and it kind of aligns itself. 1022 is a rim cartridge. It head spaces off the front of the barrel, so it's not that big a deal when you swap barrels out. And honestly, just an ingenious design, showing some of the genius of Bill Ruger. Now, I saved the best, I think, for last, unless I think of another one. I'm doing this, if you guys are unaware, hiking back to the road after a morning of unsuccessful mule deer hunting. Sadly, no meat for the freezer this morning. Since the 15-ish years or so since I first hunted this spot, it seems quite a bit more popular. Anyway, heading back to the truck without a notch in my tag. So if I sound like I'm walking, I am, but I'm trying to walk slow because it's very steep terrain, and I thought it was a good time to get you guys an episode. With working two jobs and it being hunting season and us having a fresh litter of Rhodesian Ridgeback puppies, you guys kind of got to get the content when you can get it and maybe deal with a little subpar audio quality, but it's not that windy, so it shouldn't affect it too much. I saved the best, I think, for last, unless I think of another one, and that is going to be the Ruger International. Now, these are some of the most beautiful rifles ever made, in my opinion. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You may see this stock referred to as International, RSI, Ruger likes to call it, or the Mannlicher style stock, or Bavarian. But it's the style of which the stock goes all the way out to the end of the barrel. These are just beautiful. Again, like the Sporter, I believe I know these have been made in both blued steel and stainless. The blued steel is okay, it doesn't do it for me. The stainless, to me, with like a wood stock, is just beautiful. Generally has an end cap at the end of the stock. It will have the iron sights and have the sling attachment points. And these are just beautiful guns. I think one of the most beautiful guns ever designed and a center fire in modern times is the Ruger International M77 or Hawkeye or whatever you call it. Or whatever they called it at the time, the Mark I, the Mark II, the Hawkeye. They also made the center fires in the International, the bolt actions, and they are just beautiful. These 1022 variants are also very beautiful. I just think they're the prettiest 22s ever made. Now, these aren't really favored by Americans because generally you want the American style stock with, one, because it's lighter, two, because it's generally free floated in a center fire or even in a 22. But again, with it being a 22 long rifle, not as big a deal. I don't think you're going to suffer a lot of accuracy because I don't think that barrel oscillates all that much in the stock anyway. I think they're beautiful. However, I don't own one because I'm not really a collector. Maybe one day I will, and I'll just go out and hunt small game with the one just because they're beautiful. But I think they are, again, the most beautiful version of the 1022, maybe the most beautiful version of a 22 ever. I know that's a bold statement, but that international stock with the stainless steel and the iron sights, it's just a beauty to behold. And I guess there is going to be a bonus. I don't know if it was modeled also a 1022, but they did for a time make a 1022 variant. They might have called it something else in 22 Magnum. These were pretty cool, but they quickly got discontinued. There are a few 22 Magnums in semi-auto, but that cartridge does not lend itself well to semi-auto use. It's a long, thin, straight-walled case, which can give you some feeding issues in a semi-auto. It has been done, but I guess Ruger, since it was known for reliability in the 1022, I don't know why, I'm just speculating that it wasn't worth the squeeze to have one that maybe wasn't as reliable and hurt the reputation or tarnish it of the whole line. I don't know. But they only made those for a short time. Not super interesting to me, but they are out there. Some, let's say, cousins of the 1022 that are out there. The 9622 was a lever action. Yes, Ruger made lever actions back in the day, and not Marlins, but actual Ruger lever actions. I remember these were out when I was a child. They were not super popular lever actions, although super popular today, were not popular then, and were not popular for decades. So they came and quickly went away. It's funny how fickle the American gun culture can be sometimes. Now we're taking lever actions and obscure old calibers that nobody's wanted for 100 years and putting space age, polymer and aluminum and M-lock and the latest and greatest on a lever action straight wall. Again, American gun market, it's funny sometimes. But the Ruger 9622 did not stay around very long. It just came out at the wrong time. If it had been introduced a year or two ago, it probably would have done great. It does not look like most lever actions. It looks like a Ruger 1022 with a lever. And I'm going to close it out with, if I could design one for Ruger. Okay, I would, though my favorite things all together, I would make a Ruger International in stainless steel, all weather with the canoe paddle stock. So I'd have that cut out in the stock, in the back where it's minimized, and I would have a full length, but still very lightweight polymer stock with good iron sights and sling swivel attachments. I'd have it come factory with a good peep sight and also a pick rail so you could mount an optic but still have the very good aperture type peep sight rear sight. No, I would not have a threaded barrel. That would kind of ruin the look of the International, but I would have a highly recessed, maybe 45 degree, maybe 11 degree, very recessed target crown. Anyway, that's what I would design. If I were designing a 1022 to fit like my favorite, what I would create and design. Whether you love the Ruger 1022 or not, it is a staple in American firearms culture and has been for decades and probably will be for a long time to come. Assuming, the grid stays up and all that other stuff. This, of course, was not an exhaustive list. There have been many other variants of the Ruger 1022 and slight small sub-variants. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. For your tactical tip of the day, I was reminded of it today very early in the morning. If you're out hunting or you just want to be stealthy and quiet and you're messing with a zipper, put your thumb or your fingers around the zipper when you're zipping or unzipping. It's much quieter than if you just grab the zipper and pull it up or down. Trying to stalk close to an animal, that can make a big difference. That's not a natural sound. So putting your thumb like in the open part and pushing down on it and very slowly pulling the zipper or unzipping it the same way, that can be quite a bit quieter. It may make the difference. As I'm trudging along a ridge here very high up in the beautiful Rocky Mountain West, it reminds me of a verse, your verse of the day. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He sets me on high places. He teaches my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. Thanks for listening and have a blessed day.